We are so happy you're joining us today. I am Kristen Boice, licensed marriage and family therapist with Pathways to Healing Counseling. And today we are going to be talking about finding hope after a trauma. And I am joined with best-selling author Michelle Corrao, who wrote the book Found. Oh, and I have a tissue holding some pages. So we have our pages eared, and I threw in another little tab here just a minute ago. So I am so happy you're joining me today. Thank you for being here. Please say hello in the comments. Let us know where you're tuning in from. We want to know how broad our live goes today, and feel free to ask any questions in the comments. We want to make sure that we answer any and all of your questions, as last time we had a part 1 last week on Monday. So if you want to go back and watch the replay of that, we welcome you to do it. It is on the Pathways to Healing Counseling Facebook page. And then today we wanted to jump into the book and some pages in the book, and then leave plenty of time for Q&A. So thank you so much for joining us. And Michelle, welcome.
Thank you again. It's great to be here. It's great to be with you.
Yes, I'm so excited. Tell everybody who's listening today just a brief little synopsis about your story. There's much more also on the Close the Chapter podcast and last week. So just for those that might have just be tuning in today and missed the broadcast last week.
Sure. Again, it's great to be here. Thank you. And hello, everybody that joined us. So just briefly, I'm going to condense my story a little bit, but it will be helpful in what we're going to talk about today. So I was coming home from work late one night, and I was actually abducted from my home by 3 men with handguns and put into the trunk of my car. And then I was taken out of the trunk and was beaten and sexually assaulted, raped by all 3 men repeatedly, and then thrown back into the trunk of my car, and was actually found. That's the name of my book. I was found by an off-duty detective who saved my life. And when that trunk opened and Detective Arthur Billingsley was there to save my life, that's when the true nightmare began for me, was learning how to live this now new, different life, because I lost my life, who I would have been prior to that happening. So, and that's when I say the nightmare began, I wanted who I was before, and the fight began, and the denial and the anger and the fear set in, and those became my best friends for several years following. And that's where I became educated, when I realized that everybody that was helping me had some kind of education or training to do their jobs, but here I am, a victim, and I had no idea what to do next. And that realization kind of hit me when I went, oh my gosh, they all know what they're doing. And I became angry at them because nobody was helping me be who I was, be that person who I was. So throughout my journey and the trauma and working through it, and I mentioned that I tried to go over, around, and above it instead of going through it. And going through it was painful, but that's where I found healing, is going through it and realizing and experiencing that pain and that grief,
which is so powerful, going through it, because we think, I just wanted to put it away and move on.
Right.
So will you read page 60 for us? I know this means a lot in terms of your journey and was a pivotal point.
Sure.
So yes. I have mine tagged, all my pages tagged for today. So we'll start with that one, because I think that's setting.
Okay, sure. Yeah, this is, and I always go back to this page when I'm talking in the book, but it says, and this is how I felt: I tried to appear strong whenever I was around people, but in my heart, mind, and soul, a perfect storm was brewing. Every activity, behavior, attitude, or habit that was comfortable before the attack became a trigger. Even the personality traits that had defined me, trust, independence, fearlessness, and innocence, were altered. I felt unrecognizable in every way, and I didn't know where or how to find my way forward. And I wanted to appear strong. I didn't want people to see me weak and go, "Oh my gosh, I feel so bad for you." And but inside, it was exhausting trying to put this front on, trying to put this mask on. And I think in whatever, in going through this, even in my previous life, I tried to put a mask on when I was going through something because I didn't want people to really know my weakness on the inside. So,
How did you, and you talked about this in the book, when people say you're so strong,
oh.
tell me what that was like for you.
So just you even saying that is like, it made me angry because then for people saying that to me, it was like, okay, now I have to get up on this pedestal every single day and appear strong because that's how people are seeing me. And I can't let them see me weak now because that's how people are portraying me and telling me, and you're so strong. And what I wanted was I wanted permission to be weak. Like I wanted permission to feel and to be me and to, let it show. And that's the other reason why I wrote the book, is because we need to give ourselves permission and be our authentic selves. And I think that's when relationships really start taking hold. We don't realize the impact or the influence that our experiences have for somebody else, and we don't know. And what I've just really have been recognizing is, people have been sharing their experiences with me, and everybody is facing something. And unless we are the ones that start talking about it, nobody's going to talk about it. And then there's so much shame and blame, and we're hiding behind this mask, and that's healing, is really sharing and experiencing things together, and affirmation for each other. I was grasping at affirmation from somebody. Just let me know that you've been through something. Am I going to be okay? Am I ever going to be happy? And to know that people are walking around and nothing is going on with them just made me hide my pain even more so. So,
I thought that was really important how you said that, because I hear that with almost every client that's gone through a trauma.
yeah,
They're kind of waiting for somebody to even open that door that feels safe, a safe person, to ask them in a way that they feel safe enough to share it. And even then, it's scary to open that door because tell me about
right.
that for you.
Well, I felt like if I showed my weakness, that I wasn't going to go anywhere. Like I wasn't going to be successful in anything that I did, and that people were going to then see me as that. Like I felt for a long time that I had a big capital R on my forehead, that I was a victim of rape. And um, I wanted to hide that. And if I appeared weak, then that's how my future would be. That's where I was going, and that I would never have anything, and my life would never amount to anything, that I had to put on this front and this show. And and it was years later that I really writing the book, as Kristen, you and I have talked, how freeing it has been. And even the people who I know me intimately, or who grew up with me, or even, my best friends, now they know me. Now I feel even more free to be me, and again, that me is different than than after or before this attack. So I think every experience that we go through changes us somehow, you know? And it's my hope is in going through my experience is that it will affirm somebody, that affirmation that I needed early on. That's all I was asking for, is somebody just be authentic with me, be for real. Tell me you've been through something that, you know, has been traumatic. I mean, I had, somebody that, family members that are experiencing cancer or grief, or that have read my book that actually have gotten something out of it. And, it's just that trauma piece and going through it. That that's why that was my goal, is to have people, grasp onto something that could provide some healing for them.
Yeah,
So,
and normalize what they're going through,
right,
normalize that grief.
right.
And
And I think now that it's out, and like I was saying, my friends and people that I've known for years have read the book and have learned things about me that they didn't know, that maybe has helped them along the way. Okay, I can be my authentic self, and it is okay, until somebody really puts it out there for the world to see. Um, it just doesn't happen easily.
no, it
So,
doesn't. When someone else shows up authentically and vulnerably, that gives us permission and a felt sense of safety.
right,
Felt sense of safety. I find that I'm thirsty for real. I'm thirsty for authentic because it builds a felt sense of safety. It builds trust.
right,
It builds a deeper connection. It
right.
feels like a felt sense of being seen and known. And when we're not, we don't feel seen and known.
Right. And I think the other thing that this helped me with my relationships. My relationships are so much more enriched now, uh, because I have intimately gotten to know myself. Who takes the time to do that? Really? We think we know ourselves, but it's until you really dig deep and you go through something. And I didn't want to take the time. I just wanted to push through and be who I was before and just get through this. And I didn't want to take the time. And it took me a long time to realize I need to take the time to get to know myself. And I did. I sat with myself. I wrote about it a lot. I wrote about myself, who I was, who I saw who I was, um, maybe who I wanted to be, you know. And my best friend, one of my best friends, wrote a letter, and I'm not sure if I said that when we talked live, but I think I mentioned it, and that's in the book. But the old Michelle and the new Michelle. So, and I like the new Michelle from what the old Michelle was better, much better than who I was before. And I think that's the gift. If I could give that gift, or um, help, push that along, that you can see the good out of the trauma that happens in your life.
Yes,
Then,
because when you're in it, you don't think that's possible.
right.
You don't even think that's possible.
Oh
You
my
can't
gosh.
see that.
Yeah.
You're
If
like,
you
I'm
would have asked me years
surviving.
ago, this would be my life, there's no way I would have never, yeah, no way could I have seen it.
No. I want there's so many dog ears, so we'll see how much we get to because I just love it so much.
Well,
Okay,
I love the next thing we're going to talk about, because I think that's denial.
yeah, page 71.
Yes.
If you could read those 3 paragraphs, this is so powerful.
Yes. It is very powerful, because this was my life. Denial showed up when I tried to appear unchanged, suffering all the emotions and faking my way through work days and social engagements was my attempt at pretending the whole thing never happened. But denying it only resulted in exhaustion and expiration.
I know.
Exasperation. Sorry, exasperation. It didn't help me feel any better. Inevitably, when I fooled others into thinking I was unchanged by the tragedy, I would hear things like, "You are so strong." Then anger would come. I'm sure that seemed like a good thing to say, but silence would have been better. Hearing people tell me I was strong somehow minimized the catastrophe event that took all the energy I had to survive. Even still, I didn't feel like a survivor any more than Detective Billingsley felt like a hero. Those comments made me feel misunderstood. I needed to have the space to feel everything I was feeling. So there were a lot of people, even people I considered good friends, whom I couldn't bring with me into the difficult depths of the healing journey. Most of them couldn't understand what trauma had done to me. It took so much energy then I had to try to tell them things I wasn't fully aware of myself.
Chill bumps.
Yeah.
Chill bumps.
Exhausting. Absolutely. When I read that, I go right back there and think, oh my gosh, that was so horribly exhausting.
Yeah, I could see that in your face just even
Mhm.
reading it. Stuffing the emotions. You wrote, I because that's basically what you were trying to do.
Yes.
Move
Yeah.
away from, disconnect from those emotions, and yet you wanted people to respond in silence. I thought that was powerful, not to say you're so strong.
Yeah. Silence is powerful. To
Tell
sit
me
in
about
silence
that.
with somebody is very powerful. And when I am speaking to first responders or friends or people, advocates that say, I don't know what to say, like, what do I say? And I said, sometimes sitting in silence is the best gift you could give somebody. What I needed was I just needed a chance to breathe and feel comfortable where in the space that I was with the person that I was with. And I think silence does that for somebody. Because I have done it so many times. I've said the wrong thing. Still today, I say the wrong thing. And you have to give yourself grace too. For the person that's trying to help somebody, you have to give yourself grace because that doesn't help anybody. Um, I one time worked with a gal. She was a survivor too, and she was a speaker. And we were talking about different things to say. And maybe you could say, I'm so sorry this happened. And she goes, oh my gosh, if somebody said that to me, I'd be so mad. So we do walk a fine line in supporting one another. That's why sometimes silence can be powerful. And you could even sit and say, you know what? I'm just going to sit here with you. And we don't have to say anything, but I just want you to know that I'm here present with you in this space to support you. And that's sometimes all you need to say. And then for them to let down, I mean, just to let down your guard and to just breathe is big, is huge. And if you're sitting there for 30 minutes in silence, how wonderful is that? How often do you get a chance to just do that? You know?
Yeah. And throughout the book, you would talk about Chris at the time. I don't want to spoiler alert if you haven't
Yeah.
read the book, but Chris, who you were with at the time,
Yes.
he would try to say things and you didn't know what you needed. You didn't know what he would
Right.
say things out of try to support you and love. And it didn't, no matter what he said, it didn't feel good.
So that's why I tended to push a lot of people away. I'm glad you said something about that. I was really good at pushing people away and then just not reaching out to them and not connecting with them. So yeah, Chris, um, wow, it's amazing that we're married today. He went through a lot, um, but he loved me, and I think that change. I mean, that changes everything. Love is so powerful, and that's where you learn what love really is. It's hard to be loved. I have a quote in here that talks about that. Um, it takes a lot of courage to allow somebody to feel that love. So, but yeah, I would tell him what I needed. Hard thing to do. And we talked about that last Monday. Very hard thing to do to tell somebody you needed. So I'd tell him what I needed. And 5 seconds later, I'm like, why are you not talking? And he'd be like, well, because you told me just to listen. And and then I would still get mad because I wanted him to know what I needed without me even saying it. So very difficult. Trauma does crazy things to your mind and your thoughts and it's like you can't even function. It's like you're on this continual Ferris wheel or roller coaster that you can't figure out what you really need. And I didn't know what I needed. Every minute was something different. What I needed just to even survive. So, and I think it's just realizing that. And, my friendships and my support system really narrowed because of that. Because I had to narrow it. I couldn't I almost said be in charge, but be in control of having all these relationships and trying to keep them up because I didn't even understand myself what I was going through. So I had to pare it down, and hopefully whoever was going to be my friend was going to be my friend after. So, and I don't know that I really knew that until the time I was just, again, trying to survive through it.
Exactly, that fight,
Mhm.
flight, or freeze, it was so in your body,
Right.
because that's what, the body remembers all the trauma, and so
Right.
you're trying to keep yourself safe, protect yourself from
Right.
everybody and everything. So
Right.
it's almost like your mind wants to go, "What's safe and what's not safe? What's safe and what's
Right.
not safe?" So it becomes that survival strategy. And,
Right.
the thing that I got from the book in Chris is that he accepted each moment of where you were at. He didn't try to change you, he didn't try to fix it, he didn't know what to do really, but he
Right.
accepted where you were in each moment.
Right. Yes, he did. And that's so interesting you say that because he said I didn't know what to do next. Like um so he listened and he was present. And I mean, he also was dealing with his own trauma, with what he saw that night and what he experienced. And just because he loved me so much, what can I do he wanted to fix it and he couldn't fix it. And I think that's where he was in that moment. Like he said, there was nothing I could do to fix it. And that's what I'm set out to do. Like I'm supposed to fix this for her and I can't.
And he can't protect you, and he couldn't protect you, and he couldn't fix it. That's really hard for
And I
someone you
think it was
love.
a realization, though, for others that are those secondary victims, that are trying to work through it themselves, but also support somebody else, is come to that realization. Okay, I have to realize I can't fix this because that's what we want to do, And I will be honest with you, I wanted him to fix it. You
Yes.
know, I
Yeah,
wanted him to do something to fix it, and
that's
I didn't
so
realize that
true.
he couldn't. But
Yes.
nobody could fix it but myself. I mean, and it's not even talking about fixing it, it's talking about healing,
Yeah.
you know? So, and finding that hope in the healing.
Yeah, and I thought it was powerful that you said Chris went to therapy too. You were in
Yeah.
therapy,
Hmm.
and he also, because we have what's called vicarious trauma. So it affects everybody in the system. It affects everybody that's in contact with someone that's gone through a trauma.
Right. Right.
Differently. You might feel differently than the person that's gone through the trauma. I liked how you said he went and he talked to somebody too.
Right. Yes, he did. He did. And then we worked through it together. So it's not only we were going separate, but um, we went together too. So, and honestly, I will have to tell you, um, uh, he wasn't going to stay anyway. I mean, that was in my mind. Okay, he can help me through this maybe, but I'm sure he's going to leave. And so
Mhm.
I had that mindset of, well, I'll just keep pushing him away because then, and this sounds really terrible, but again, it was my trauma. Well, I'm just going to keep pushing him away because he's not going to stay anyway. And I can say, I told you so, kind of thing.
Let's see. Oh,
So,
there you are. You're back. We say
yes,
it again.
sorry.
Oh, sorry.
I said, in pushing him away, I could say, I told you so that you're not going to stay because I knew he was going to stay. That I could say, well, I told you so. You weren't going to stay anyway. That kind of mindset. And I know
Yes.
that sounds terrible, but that's where I was.
I have heard that so many times. It's really a fear of abandonment and being left alone and rejected. That's
Yes.
so powerful for so many people. So they kind of like, I'm just gonna predict that they're gonna leave anyways to try
Right.
to self-protect so I don't get
Right.
hurt. So they don't
Right.
hurt me and I go through more pain and more grief and more loneliness.
Right. Yeah. But that denial, it wasn't until I faced that, I mean, really facing the fear, believing that it actually happened and working through it. I think that's when the denial started to, that I could say, okay, I'm not in denial anymore. I'm going to work through this. And that was the denial was going over, around it, under it. It was the going through it that.
How did you get to the part that you were going to go through it? Like, what was the catalyst that propelled you to say, I'm going to go, I've got to walk through this?
I think it was a lot of things, Chris, I think was because he stayed, he just kept staying. And okay, what can I do now to work through this? He's staying, my friend who wrote the letter, reading that. For me, putting some closure on some things, going through the judicial system helped me, that last day in court, which it, went on for almost 3 years and was really hard. And, that last day walking out of the courthouse going, okay, I can now take another step forward. And that was freeing. And then I just had one more thing on my mind that I was going to say, and I can't remember, but those definitely, the people that God placed in my life, that I realized that they were really supportive and they weren't going anywhere. To find those stable people in my life, I think really helped me to realize, okay, I can do this and move forward. So that's what it was. That's what it was for me.
Yeah.
And I was talking about putting closure on. I know where I was going. For me, putting closure on meant actually going back to where I was taken from. Just to face that fear, I think, and that denial. Okay, this is where I walked up to the door and this is what happened, and trying to, remember it and just sit in that space too and face that fear. And then also where I was found. And it wasn't until recently that I actually went with Detective Billingsley to the actual place where I was found. So I just did that with probably about a month ago. But I did drive by and sat in the place, but I didn't know exactly where it was. So for me, that was closure. For some people, that's not closure for them, but for me, that was closure. It was closure seeing the guys taped testimonies on what happened that night, and for some people that wouldn't be closure, but for me, that's closure. And that helped me realize this really did happen. I'm going through this. And all those steps helped me to put that denial aside and to deal with it. And this really did happen, because denying it is not going through it.
It keeps you stuck in it.
It keeps you stuck. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm.
So what was it like for you a month ago to go back to the spot, the actual spot?
Yeah. And I think it just was more healing for me, especially with Detective Billingsley. Again, just standing in that space, and it's different. It's developed a little bit and not developed. And so it looked different than what it was. So I think it was kind of good. But I think with all the hard work, it wasn't as difficult as I had anticipated it being. So I was pretty proud of that, and it felt okay. It felt good. And it felt like, wow, this is just another step in the direction that I wanted to go. So, yeah.
Felt empowering, it seems like.
It did. Yeah, it did. Yeah.
I read on page 70. Oh, not page 70. I just had it open to my next page because I have so many pages here that I loved.
Is it 94?
It's 94, the last paragraph. Will you read that?
Yeah, would love to. Yeah, I like this. While my first instinct had been to try to get over it as quickly as possible, I discovered that you never really fully get over trauma. The way I had reacted to people and circumstances after the attack didn't mean I was crazy. In fact, every feeling I experienced was totally normal. Before before living with the after effects of the attack, I never understood how trauma changes the brain's wiring. Triggers send impulses to a part of the brain that overrides all rational thoughts with a fight or flight reaction. That is why the sight of shrubbery dropped me to my knees on an otherwise normal afternoon stroll, understanding this was powerfully liberating.
And I think that next paragraph, will you read the next paragraph?
Mhm. Moving past the things that have hurt us isn't about denying or forgetting the reality of what happened. That simply isn't possible. And it isn't about running away from the pain because our pain comes with us everywhere we go. Getting past the past for me became a journey of acceptance that my story was changed by trauma. But it was still my story, not everyone else's. I could find my voice again when I realized I never actually lost it. I simply had to rediscover it. I needed time to relearn how to be me in this new reality. Yeah.
Tell me
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah. Moving past the past, that's and just trying to get over it. I remember people. So I again, my relationships changed because this became my life, and I realized that people did want me to get over it. And I actually heard people say, you need to really get over this. And of course, that made me angry. But it also instilled, I thought, what does getting over it mean? What does that really mean? And what does that look like? And yeah, I kind of do want to get over it. But again, what does that mean? And what does that, I'm never going to. And then I realized it's not about getting over this, it's healing from it. It's always going to be there. And I think that that is healing too. And that provides hope, realizing that it's not about getting over it, it's getting through it and healing and realizing that hope and knowing that you can have a good life and that all of that is in reach for you. But again, it's not getting over it, it's getting through it. And moving past the past. People talk about the past defining you, and I'm not so sure that it defines you, but gosh, it for me, it can be enrich your life to a point where you cannot even imagine if you let it, if you go through it. There are so many more good things that have happened out of this experience, out of this attack, out of this trauma, out of, there's so many things to name it, that my life is so much better. And not that I would love for this not to have happened, but I wouldn't be married to Chris. I wouldn't have my kids. I look at all of the experiences and all the people that have come into my life, and the people that have shared their stories are the biggest part of my life right now. And is my lifetime role now is to listen and be in that space with them and hope that I can somehow inspire them through my journey, to provide hope and healing. So my past is my past. It doesn't necessarily define me, but in some ways it makes me who I am, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Makes perfect sense.
So like it says, it isn't about denying or forgetting the reality of what happened. I mean, that's just not possible. And it isn't about running away from the pain. It's everywhere you go, but it's a journey of acceptance of this happened. But look at my life. Look at the opportunities. Look at the enriched relationships. Look at what I can give. Give back. And when you don't even know, even if you don't choose the life that I've chosen, and providing, working with women right now that are homeless and pregnant, or working with victims of crime and abuse. I chose that, that's my journey. But honestly, anybody can be an advocate for anybody, because you're going to work with people who have experienced trauma, and you never know when you're going to have the opportunity to help somebody, just by listening. And sometimes you don't even need to share your experiences, but and they know, and there's a connection there.
So powerful.
And that is powerful. That is powerful. And there's so many stories that I can share that are and that's when I look up and I go, God, you are amazing that you put this person in front of me, for all kinds of different reasons. It's been amazing.
Yeah, truly. And I witnessed that. I witnessed you doing that. It's been such a gift and an honor and a privilege to see the impact that you have when you share your story. On page 87, there's a Brene Brown quote. And I love Brene Brown. Owning
Yes.
our own story and loving ourselves through the process is the bravest thing we will ever do.
Yeah.
So you writing your story in the book.
I know my little sign fell.
Your sign, we got to put your sign back up. Was the bravest thing you're doing to get out and share your story. The vulnerability it took to step into that and have courage is really the result of you doing the work. And the work looks like connecting to those emotions, accepting what happened, processing through it, tending to it, not stuffing it, not ignoring it,
right,
not denying it. Like that was a part of the healing process, all those steps.
Mm-hmm.
Denial tries to keep us safe.
Yeah. Yes, for sure. Yeah. And it's facing them head on, even though it's the hardest thing that I've done, I know, but it brought me the biggest joy, is going through it and working through that pain and getting to know myself and getting intimate with myself and knowing who I am and knowing those quirks. And I mean, even when I say something now, I'm like, oh gosh, I just realized that didn't come out right. You know what I mean? And that's just really knowing yourself and then saying it and accepting it and saying, oh my gosh, I really didn't mean it to be that way,
Yeah.
And being for real. I think one of the most important, and I don't even know if important, but things that I can offer people is, be present with somebody and be yourself and be authentic. And people know when you're not, I mean, when I put on that mask, that was so exhausting. And I did not like myself,
We're so afraid to we're so
I mean, I was denying who I was. Yes.
Yeah.
And denying who I really was.
Because you thought, I have to be this person that has it all together. I have to be
Right.
the strong one that has it all together, like I was before. They want me to be who I was before.
Right. Yeah.
And then when you started to connect to those emotions and process them and accept what happened, I'm hearing you say that was the huge process for you in healing to get to joy. Because most people that go through trauma never think they're going to have joy again.
Right. Right. Yeah.
So to hear you use the word joy, I'm like, right, that's from you doing all this work. You can experience joy now.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. And that's a gift. Mm-hmm.
So what would be the 3 takeaways? Then we'll open it up if anyone wants to answer any questions. For someone that has gone through a trauma to get to hope, what would be the 3 big takeaways for you that helped you get to hope again? I know we've named some, but
I know. Now you're going to test me.
No test. No right or wrong answers here. No right or wrong answers. Just for you. What were the, 3 for you that helped you get through this horrific trauma?
I mean, like I just said, I think really getting to know yourself, give yourself space and time, I think. And we rush through our days instead of taking time for ourselves. I think that is a gift that you can give yourself. I do believe, so I think that's that is definitely a big takeaway, is getting to know yourself. Spend time with yourself, whether doing something you love to do, writing. I believe in writing things down and going back and reading them.
My journal. I always
Yeah.
have it with me.
Yeah. Even if it's a word a day or something, I don't know. Getting to know yourself. I, I, I mean, for me, again, it was picking that one person, to go to. I think that really has somebody who, it doesn't matter what you say or what you do, or, give that permission, get that permission, set up those boundaries and those guidelines, if you want to call them. I don't even know if that's the right word, but where you can just be present with that person. And I think that helps you feel to move forward and be comfortable with other people, is having that permission. And I'm trying to think, I'm thinking a lot about denial and what I said about denial, and working through that. Realizing that you're, it's not always going to be your everyday. When I was talking about that earlier, I really didn't finish my thought, but I my relationships changed because that was my everyday. There was nothing else going on in my life. It was just this trauma. I couldn't focus on anything else. I couldn't be anybody else. It was just this, and people were getting tired of it. So it's like, you need to get over this. And I did have somebody say, you need to get over this or Chris isn't going to be with you. I mean, there were all these kinds of threats, and, you need to get over this. And, uh, it's not always going to be like that. It's not. And the trauma is not always going to be your life, working through it. So,
Somebody
and
needs
again,
to
it's about working through it.
Yeah, because they're afraid they'll never get. This will be their life,
It will always be there. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
they won't be able to get through it.
And that's not truth.
Exactly. That's
Mhm.
what shame. That shame that says I'm not good enough. There's something now wrong with me as a result of this trauma. That
Right.
shame really wants to take us and hide, and go into hide everything. And what we know is when we don't hide and when we come to the light and we have compassion for ourselves and empathy for ourselves, we start that healing process.
Right. Right.
So when you, at the very beginning, when you were like, I didn't want to appear weak, tell me what you meant by that, because I think that will resonate with a lot of people. Like when you said, I didn't want to appear weak.
I didn't want to look weak. I, I got up every morning and showered and did my hair and did everything that I possibly could to look like I was okay and like I was the person I was before, and don't treat me differently, and don't feel sorry for me, and don't, because when anybody went, oh my gosh, then I was like, okay, what? You know? Um, so in order for me to look that part, then I figured I wouldn't get the reactions from people. So I didn't want to think people. I did actually want to appear strong, you know? But then when I wasn't given permission, then I got mad. So I mean, for me, that's what, appearing weak what was about. And I can still, I can go back to work and I can do, but it wasn't the case. I tried, and that, um, and I wanted to play that part of being strong, and didn't want to. And so I realized years later that really wasn't giving others the opportunity, and that wasn't respecting or giving, oh, I can't think of the word. Respect is the only thing I can think of, but for other survivors, I really wasn't helping them by being how I was. And it wasn't until through the work that I really realized that, gosh, I'm not really giving respect or honor to those who have, because I'm trying to deny it. That becomes with denial,
Yes.
trying to appear strong when you're not, you know? I mean, when you don't want to, you want to be able to feel.
Yeah, that's so powerful. I'm just sitting with
Mhm.
that, like that denial, and it didn't
Yeah,
want to appear, you wanted to appear strong. And that was part
right.
of the denial. And
And
then
dignity was the word, dignity and
dignity.
respect. I wasn't really giving them the honor, dignity, or respect, and not even myself at that, you
Yeah.
know, for healing reasons.
Yeah. So powerful.
Yeah.
Is there anything from the book that you wanted to share that we didn't cover?
Oh, there's so much. Everybody asks me what my favorite chapter is. I don't think there's a favorite chapter because one has to go with the other. It's kind of like a puzzle. Uh, I talked about that. The one quote that I wanted, and I'm not sure that I can find it because I have everything so marked, but it's about, I don't care whether you've sat um, with the more or less the people that or I care that you sat with the broken.
Mm.
That's a pretty powerful, and I love that. It's towards the end.
I wonder if I marked it in my page here,
Yeah.
but I like that
Yeah.
whole
Hmm.
concept. And I
Yeah.
also liked on page 67 where you said it is possible to hold fear and faith at the same time.
Yeah.
It is possible to hold fear and faith at the same time. And that is what you had to do to survive.
Yes. Yeah.
That was on page 67, the
Yeah.
last
I love that too. Yeah.
because a lot of people get stuck in the fear and lose the faith
Hmm.
or feel shame that they don't have enough faith because they're in the fear. They feel bad
Yes.
about that.
Yes. Yeah. The other thing that I guess that I would say is my book is a lot about gratitude for the people who walked with me through this. Um, and I say that in my acknowledgments. You wouldn't be holding a redemptive story in your hand, book in your hand, if it weren't for the people that walked with me,
Yeah.
and believed in me and believed, my story. It's just like my publisher that accepted me. I still, at that point, was, um, was like, oh my gosh, when I got accepted, what? They really accepted like me. They want to hear my story. Like they care about that. And that made me even more believe in myself and what I was doing and what I wanted to try to do to help others. So, that sets in. So you also have to give yourself grace too, because every once in a while that sets in. Don't think that's a setback because you're going to have those moments where you're like, oh my gosh, I just, took 1,000 steps back. But it's still, those thoughts creep in still, every once in a while. And it's okay. It's
Yeah.
just realizing that they're creeping in. And what are you going to do with it?
Right. How are you going to nurture it? How are you going to tend to
Right.
it?
Right.
Yeah. I remember when you were on the Close the Chapter podcast and you were like you had found Emily and you guys were who helped write the book with you,
Yes.
like listen to your story and put it all together. And you were like, oh my God. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. Because you had
Yeah.
not, the book was not finalized at that point.
Yes.
So it's been a real honor to watch the process
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so
You were at
excited.
the beginning of the process when I was so excited. And it was even scary to talk about because I thought, am I really gonna if I write something down or I say it, I'm pretty much gonna do it. But it took me 10 years to do it. So I was beginning to question myself. And it's having patience with yourself. You don't know. I mean, it doesn't have to be tomorrow and it doesn't have to be next week. And I'm just here to tell you 10 years. 10 years it took me, and that's okay.
I use this all the time, and that's okay for people. I'm like, and you feel this right now in this moment, and that's okay.
Yeah,
That's the permission slip you were talking about, saying, and that's okay. Whatever you're feeling right now, that's okay. That's
right.
an invitation for it to be up and out of your body, to be tended to be nurtured. And patience, like you said, 10 years.
Yeah.
And here
And
you
look,
are.
here we are sitting here. Yes. Yeah.
And here we are. So exciting
Yeah.
for everybody. I highly recommend the book. I bought a case. I don't even 2 cases. I don't know. I bought like a ton of books and I'm passing them out like candy because everybody needs
Aw,
to hear how we get to hope when we feel hopeless, especially even now with the pandemic. A lot of people
yeah.
don't have a lot of hope. And we need to help people have hope again. And we get to hope by connecting to those emotions and processing, tending to yourself so we can move through it, get to the other side. So I'm going
Yeah.
to open it up. Does anybody have any questions? Drop it in the comments if you do. And if you do and you're watching on the replay, that's fine. Just drop it in the comments and we'll come back and try to notice those. This will be housed on the Pathways to Healing Counseling Facebook page. If you want to go back, if you want to share it with someone that might need to hear the story, that might feel hopeless right now, that might feel lost and feel like this is going to be permanent and I won't be able to move through something, through the emotional pain, through the fear, through all the shame, and that anxiety. This gives people hope. When we hear another story, and in the book you talk about, I just wanted to hear someone else's story that has gone through something.
Yeah.
You're like, really need to hear someone else has gone through it and they've survived it and they're thriving now. You're still human. You're still going to have emotions. And part of the process is learning how to tend to those as they come up. So thank you for sharing your story.
Oh,
So
thank
grateful
you.
for you, Michelle Corrao.
It's always wonderful to be with you. So thank you for the opportunity and thank you for caring and for all you do.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thank
I
you.
appreciate it. It's been fun. Thank you all for joining us today.
Yes, thank you. You matter, you're important, and you're enough. I know that shame wants to tell you a different story, and we're here to tell you the truth. So feel free to drop anything in the comments, even if it's after, on the replay, and we'll try to respond as best we can. Thank you for joining us today, and everybody go and be you. Thanks again.